because a lot of the girls were really like, they were riding for that man. Like, some of the girls who I haven't even seen talk to him yet. Like, one of the girls was like, if you come for Clayton, you come for all of us. If Clayton is not your type, then something is wrong with you. Like, it was a lot. It was a lot going on. And I was just kind of like, do you feel that way? Like, do you really feel that way right now? Like, 3 hours into night one. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Breauana's Bachelor Breakdown. I'm Breauana, your Bachelorette relationship analyst. If you love getting into the nitty-gritty of all the relationships and all the drama, then this channel is for you. Today we're going to be covering episode 1, night 1 of Clayton's season. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So we open things up with the producers trying to push on this small town boy narrative on Clayton. He's from a no-name town in Missouri. I was really hoping that we would get to see this story, this fable that the producers said that would make us fall in love with Clayton. But we got none of that. Instead, we got him walking down the main street with all these random individuals waving at him. He just seems very regular, degular. I don't like him. I don't dislike him. He's just kind of around. One thing I will say, though, that wasn't necessarily in this opening spiel, but that I did pick up on throughout the night about his personality, is that he's very polite and he's very engaging, which I really liked. I noticed that he has very good manners. Like, he always says thank you. One small moment that stuck out to me was when he got out of the limo on the first night, and he said thank you to the driver, which is like not a big thing at all. Like, literally, that's the bare minimum. But I feel like I personally haven't really noticed or picked up on that from other leads before. I feel like they're more, focused on making an entrance and making sure they look good walking up to that, like, standing spot or whatever. But I noticed that Clayton, no matter what he's doing, he never forgets to mind his manners and pay respect to the people around him, which is something I can appreciate. And then he's also, like I said, he's very engaging and responsive in conversation. I noticed that he responds to literally everything someone says or does, but not in an annoying way, just in a way that lets you know that he's listening and paying attention, even when there's nothing to respond to. Like, if a girl came up to him and she was giving him a really long spiel about, like, hey, my name is such and such, I work here, I'm from there, at every pause, he was like, okay, like, verbally, he would say it, which stuck out to me because I'm kind of the opposite. Like, if someone's talking to me, I'm just kind of quiet until they're done speaking. But I feel like the way Clayton interacts, he wants you to know that he's paying attention to you, he's taking in what you're saying. As well as when someone speaks to him, he addresses every part of what they say. And that's one thing that usually annoys me about, like, reality shows or shows like this. Like, people can kind of get away with, especially it being on TV, not really addressing what someone says or skirting around whatever was asked of them so that they can get an answer to the question they wish they were asked, or so that they can use whatever question they were asked as a jumping off point to promote whatever they want to say. But instead, I feel like Clayton, like, if a girl asks him a multi-part question that maybe has, like, 2 or 3 parts to it, he'll address each and every part. Like, he makes sure he's responding to what's being said to him. Even if it's just a small one sentence, like, he always provides that feedback that is important in a conversation and helps you feel engaged and connected with the other person. So I say all that to say that those are the 2 qualities that so far have stuck out to me about Mr. Clayton. So before we can even really get into the episode, we catch up with Miss Salley, who is over here talking about she was engaged right before the season was supposed to begin airing, and I guess the weekend of the night 1 was the day that she was actually supposed to get married. And it's obviously, understandably, taking a toll on her. Like, that's a lot to deal with. And so she goes to talk to Clayton because she's just unsure if she wants to move forward in this process, which, like I said, is understandable. She comes in, she breaks everything down to him. This is what's going on. Clayton, my man, is just sitting there blank face. Like, he has no idea what's going on. He does not know what to say to sis. Like, he is just boggled right now. He takes a minute, goes to collect himself, comes back in, and then he says that he was in a similar situation, so he understands where she was coming from. And this is the content, this is the backstory that I was looking for. Like I said before, I was waiting in his little promo spiel, his little first intro package, whatever, for the producers to be like, this is why we picked Clayton. This is a backstory that you didn't get to see on Michelle's season. We got none of that. They skated right over this. If Clayton has been engaged before, married before, on the road, close to being proposing or married to someone, that's what I want to know. That is on my need to know. I need to know what his previous dating patterns, history are like, so that I can have that context going into this season. And they said, nope, let us tell you 3 different times about his football history at Mizzou. Like, I don't care. This is what the people want. Or at least this is what I want. Anyway, Clayton says that he understands where she's coming from, but she's different. So this is the first sign I get. I think Clayton, here's my theory. I think he's a reformed F-boy, okay? Because this man, he was an athlete, he's a football player, like, not to pass judgment or stereotype athletes, but we know what usually they're up to, especially in college sports, I feel like, in professional sports. And so he probably had all the girls coming for him at Mizzou, in the NFL. I don't know how long he was in the NFL, but he's a good looking dude. He's attractive, he's tall, he's built. I'm sure he's no stranger to the ladies. But now he's got to kind of have a clean cut look. He's got to look like what the producers want him to look like. He's got to fit their mold. Even in going on to The Bachelor, I mean, he doesn't really look any different. He's not a new person or he's not presenting himself in a different way than he did on Michelle's season. But I think he has grown up a little than the Clayton we might have met even 2-3 years ago. But I still think old habits die hard. I still think he has some F-boy tendencies deep down inside of him, because that was a classic line. Oh, you're different. Oh, there's something about you. And this was the first iteration of the night, but it was not the last. So he tells old girl, oh, you know what? Like, I know this is really hard for you. This is literally the day you're supposed to get married, but you're different. You're special. Like, that means nothing. There's no words coming out of your mouth. Like, everyone is unique. Yeah, that's part of DNA. That's part of being a human. Like, I need more than that. I'm aware that I'm different from you. That's why we are different people. So she kind of eats it up a little bit, but ultimately decides that she can't do it, which I for one, I did not. Let me back up a little bit. After Clayton, says that she's different, he offers her a rose. Did not see that coming. Honestly, did not see that coming. And then she rejects it. Did not also see that coming. I thought old girl was going to eat it up because, like I said, he's attractive. He's saying you're different. He wants you. He's giving you this undivided attention. You would kind of obviously be coming in with a bit of a lead. Like, you got to meet him before everyone else, and he's shown interest in you. I would take that right up. But she makes the mature decision, and decides to walk away. So, that's the end of Miss Salley. Then we get into the meat of the night, the limo entrances. So I'm just going to breeze through some moments and some people that kind of stuck out to me. So the first person that stuck out to me was Teddy. We meet her in her little promo intro package thing, whatever. She's super cute. I already think she's so adorable. I love that she wore her natural hair to the first night. I feel like the only person who I can think of who has done that in seasons past is Piper. And I love that representation that we're getting on these shows as time goes on. Like, I think it's super important. I love that she embraced it, and it looked so good. She also reveals in her promo package that she's a virgin. And I saw this tweet online about someone talking about, Bachelor Nation meeting another virgin, and it was that picture of Ben Affleck, like, smoking a cigarette outside of a building, looking just so defeated. And that is instantly the mood. That's instantly what my mind, the mode that my mind went into once I heard that. Because I'm still recovering from Colton season. I'm really not ready to have this as another storyline. I know that it's real. I know that it's valid, and I respect her choice and decision, but it's not a personality trait. Like, it's really not. I need something else. But I don't think she's lacking in that. I do think that she has more depth. But I'm saying I hope that they don't focus on that too much. I hope they balance it out with her other actual personality traits. Okay, so then after Teddy, all the black girls, the rest of the black girls, they just shoved them in the same limo one by one. They all came out one after the other. I don't know if it actually happened that way or if it was edited that way. Either way, it's the same result. They're just lumped in the middle, which to me signals they're not going to get any screen time because we as an audience are not meeting them. So therefore, they're not going to be super relevant to Clayton's journey. Not surprised. I'm really not surprised. I just thought it was funny how obvious they made that. I thought they would at least try to, like, you know, sprinkle them in, like, do a little mix and mingle. But no, they said all 5 of y'all going as one monolith, one after the other. So here we are. The Bachelor is back to its roots, and who am I? Who am I to think that they have done the listening and the learning after the 3 seasons with people of color leads that we've gotten? They said, that's done. You're done. I hope you enjoyed it while it lasted. And we're back to normal. Then we also had, this is just a super small moment, but it kind of irked me because it was super repetitive. Just the, like, limo entrances where the one girl rolled in on, like, the tiny, like, kid limo, and then the other girl rolled in on, like, the big, like, monster truck limo or whatever. Like, that was literally the same thing that happened on Michelle's night one with a PJ and the other guy with the fire trucks. And maybe it's just because these seasons were back to back. Maybe if we had more time, hint, hint, ABC, if we had more time in between these seasons, it wouldn't have been as fresh on my mind. But I feel like I just watched Michelle's premiere yesterday. So it just felt dry. It felt repetitive. I felt like I had already seen it. The last girl that stuck out to me from the limo entrances was Kira, just because she was a doctor who rolled up in her lingerie. I thought it was cute. I thought it was fun, like, you know, a way to spice up who she is as a person. But I can already tell that this is going to be a judgmental group of girls because they're already taking subliminal, like, jabs at her. One girl was like, oh, why would he buy the cow now that he has all the milk? They're just, you know, watching her from the sidelines, talking about how trashy that is and how they would never do that. And I, for one, I'm never here for shaming how women choose to present and express themselves. She wasn't doing anything inappropriate. She wasn't doing anything vulgar. It's her body, and she can put whatever clothes on it, frankly, that she wants. Like, how does it affect you and your journey that she's wearing her own clothes? You know, like, it just, to me, it seems like a waste of time and energy. It doesn't seem like the makings for a very supportive environment. It seems very toxic, especially because with that type of attitude and mentality, I feel like it can be so easy for you to be kind of in the in group one day, kind of the one who is judging the other people on the sidelines and in the in crowd making those snide remarks. And then the next day, you could be the one wearing the metaphorical lingerie, and then everyone could be judging you if that's already the precedent that's set and accepted in the house. So I was not here for that at all. So then we fast forward a little bit. One of the bigger interactions, I should say, of the night was between Claire and Clayton. Actually really liked the idea, the date that she set up for him. I thought it was fun. I thought it was thoughtful. She set up a tailgate for him because she says that she herself is a football fan, and she was trying to engage him in conversation about, like, favorite football team. So I was cool. I thought it looked like an enjoyable time. But I knew, even before things started, like, tumbling downhill, I already knew that they were not vibing. the first warning sign was when they were talking about like the wings that they liked, and I think Claire, she likes the flats and Clayton likes the drums, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. But she was like, oh, that's perfect. So when we go out to eat at like a bar, you can take all the bad wings and I'll get all like the good ones. Like she was just kind of like, you know, making fun of his wing choice. And it was funny. That would have been something I laughed at and kind of joked back with her and started a little banter or something if I were in his shoes. But it fell flat. It did not register for Clayton, or even if it did, he did not find it amusing. He did not. And like I said earlier, he's very responsive. He's very engaging. He did not address that comment whatsoever. He was just like, I'm going to munch on this wing because that was not amusing to me. So that was warning sign number 1. That things were going to go south a little bit. Warning sign number 2 was when marinara sauce came up to him and she tried to pull him away. And Claire was like, a lot of girls, they do get upset when someone tries to interrupt and pull the lead. And she started talking to Clayton like he was a dog. She was like, no, sit. And she already has a very commanding voice. She just has a very distinct voice and presence. It wasn't far off for it to come out like that. Like, it wasn't like, whoa, where did that come from? I was like, oh, okay, like, yeah, here we are. That makes sense. But you can just tell Clayton, he doesn't really know how to kind of navigate these awkward moments in the house. He doesn't really know how to make sure that he's giving everyone that equal time and not showing too much favoritism to one person over the other. And so he literally looked like a deer in headlights, and he was like, whew, I don't know where to go. I don't know who to turn to. And he ended up walking away from Claire. And he seemed a little bit put off by that, like, commanding attitude. Like, he himself, he's not very commanding. He's not that strong of a presence. He's not going to be the loudest one in the room. But I can tell that he's independent. Like, just because he's not bossing other people around doesn't mean that he's just going to be following other people. You know, so that I can already tell that just that little glimpse of that dynamic clued me into how that relationship between them would have gone had it carried on, and neither of them obviously were vibing with that. And so that was the end of their little interaction. And then something really interesting happened. Claire, you know, obviously, like I said, there were those 2 warning signs, the interaction, mini date, whatever, kind of fell flat. She walked away. She's like, hey, you know what? I didn't really have that much chemistry with the guy. I don't really like him. Here we are. Let me just say, I don't know if this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I thought that was really refreshing. Like, I was actually really kind of glad to see someone be honest with themselves, be honest with their feelings, and not just be immediately infatuated with the lead just because they're the lead and they're on the show, and like you spent 2 weeks in quarantine thinking about how this might be your person and might be the one, and like you've already built that person up so much in your head that by the time you meet them, you're just so ready to like them that you just look for that confirmation bias. I think that happens a lot on this show. The people really fall head over heels with the lead, and a lot of times it is that confirmation bias. Like, you're already predisposed to liking that person. You're dating 30 other people who also like that person and are sitting around talking to that person all day. So of course you're gonna want to find reasons to like them and to stay and to get to know them more. And that's not to say that I feel like the feelings or the relationships that develop out of this show are fake or don't have a strong foundation, because I think that can happen a lot of the time. I just think, especially for those people who get sent home early and don't really form that deep of a connection with the lead, but still are in their confessionals talking about, oh my gosh, they're everything I've ever wanted. It's like, are they though? Like, are they? You were sent home night 2. Like, you know, it just, I feel like that, I like that she didn't really get sucked into that kind of thought bubble. She did say some more comments that were a little bit more unnecessary. She got a little rude. She was like, oh, I hate him. I don't want to date Mr. All-American, this, that, and the third. And on the one hand, like I said, they were unnecessary. She didn't really have to go that far to insult like him as a person. As a viewer, as someone who was here for the tea, here for the drama, I was here for it. I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious, especially the way that it was edited and the way they showed her in so many different conversations, just kind of going off about him. That was really funny to me. And of course, all the girls were really thrown off by Claire. Number one, because, you know, all the rest of the girls did like Clayton, or at least the girls that we heard from were interested in him. As well as, I think that was combined with the fact that she was being really rude in her comments about him. And this is an example of what I'm saying, of like, you just get so caught up, like you're so ready to like that person that when you meet them, you're like, yes, this confirms everything that I've already built up in my head. Because a lot of the girls were really like, they were riding for that man. Like, some of the girls who I haven't even seen talk to him yet. Like, one of the girls was like, if you come for Clayton, you come for all of us. If Clayton is not your type, then something is wrong with you. Like, it was a lot. It was a lot going on. And I was just kind of like, do you feel that way? Like, do you really feel that way right now? Like, 3 hours into night one. So, you know, whatever. But I can understand why the girls were a little salty with Claire. Especially because Claire, she does her spiel about, I didn't like him, we didn't have any chemistry. And then one girl was just like deadpan, like, well, at least you got to talk to him. Like, they really were not here for Miss Thing. So, of course, one of the girls, I don't remember who it was, goes to talk to Clayton. And she's like, oh yeah, sis says that she hates you. And here we are, Clayton again, not knowing how to manage and control these uncomfortable situations, not knowing how to take in this information and evaluate it in a timely manner. He's like, hate is a strong word. Like, yeah. Like, could you imagine you're the lead, you roll up, everyone's supposed to be here for you, and then you're like, someone's like, oh, they hate you, and you're just like, yeah. Like, I'd be mad. I'd be like, okay, when's the next flight home? Like, goodbye, you're back. I will pack your bags for you. Like, no, I'm not dealing with that. But whatever, you know, Clayton, he's a gentleman. He goes to talk to her. Sis denies everything. But of course, you know, it's pretty clear what's going on. It's pretty clear. She denies everything, but she doesn't reassure him. She's not like, oh my gosh, I would never say that. I really, really like you. She was just like, hate? No, I wouldn't say hate. You know, like, she just wasn't doing enough. Because she didn't care, which is fine. So she gets sent home. What did y'all think of Claire? Like I said, I found her refreshing, but let me know in the comments if she was kind of off-putting to you, or if more people had what I think will probably be an unpopular opinion. So then we're going to rewind a little bit to unpack Miss Teddy. So she gets the first kiss, and she and Clayton, their whole relationship so far just seems to be flirting, based on flirting, which is fine. Like, it's night one. Of course, you're not going to have, like, some super deep, in-depth, heart-to-heart conversation. Keep it a light, upbeat. And again, we have Mr. Clayton's F-boy tendencies showing, because he pulls out his old trusty-dusty, there's just something about you. Like, okay, all right. Like, even if you don't know her, I'm just the type of person, like, don't just make up compliments to me. Like, I hate when people, like, go too far, and they're like, oh, you're so kind, you're so intelligent, like, say stuff to me that, like, I know to be true, but if you're just meeting me for the first time, you don't know that to be true, right? Like, don't assign me compliments that you yourself have not experienced yet. But also provide compliments that, you know, you do have evidence for it. There's something about you that means nothing. That does not mean any. Yes, there is something about me. I am a person. I'm here. I am something. There's something about me. Yes. But it's like, you could use, oh, I really like your hair. I really like your dress. I really like your smile. You know, like, there are legitimate compliments that you can provide that are not, like, far-fetched or based off of projections of what you hope the person will be like, but are also, like, not just shallow and not worthless and meaningless. You know, like, I feel like there's a happy medium, but like I said, his F-boy tendencies, he probably did not have to work very hard in the past to get girls. And so he's used to kind of skating by on these, you know, flimsy statements, and girls just being like, oh, there's something about me. And just, you know, the relationship takes off from there. So he's clearly putting these tactics to use, and it's working. You know, Teddy's into him. Eventually she gets the first impression rose, which I thought was super sweet, because even though their relationship is kind of vapid at this point, I really like her as a person. She gives off a good energy to me. And I really like the way they were looking at each other. You can tell there's a lot of sexual tension there. She was definitely looking at him with huge heart eyes when he was giving her the first impression rose. And she seemed very comfortable in his presence. She was kind of like laying on his shoulder and like kissing him in between sentences. And like, they just seemed very like comfortable with each other already. And so it was cute. I was here for it. But I will say, I did not necessarily see this first impression rose coming. Like, I feel like there were several girls who could have gotten it. Teddy definitely was in the running, but I didn't really have a front runner in my mind to get that first impression rose. But let me know in the comments, did you see this coming? Tell me why or why not. So then, of course, there are some other girls who also made a splash on night one. The first being Susie. She came across as very friendly, very approachable, easy to talk to. She just seems like a fun person. My only worry with her, I will say, is that especially in her little promo reel and in her first conversation with Clayton, she just seems like she's adventurous. She likes to take risks and kind of do things that most other people don't, which is fine. You know, like, more power to you. That's cool. But I'm just worried that she's the type of person that's her whole or her only personality trait. And that can get kind of old. And it also makes me wonder, because in her first conversation with Clayton, Clayton was like, yeah, like, this is outside of my comfort zone. Like, I'm really new to all this. And she was like, oh, I live life outside of the comfort zone. Everything I do is outside of the comfort zone. Which, number one, like, just looking at that statement at face value, that doesn't mean anything if you live your life outside of the comfort zone. What you're really saying is that you live life outside of what you assume most other people's comfort zone to be. But if you live your whole life outside of that, that is your comfort zone, right? Outside of her comfort zone would then be doing something normal or drab, or like, you know, having a normal 9-to-5, or like, because it seems like she's a wedding videographer. Like, that's not probably in an office setting. Like, she's out and about, going to different places, different venues, different weddings, always traveling on the go. So her outside of her comfort zone would be slowing down a little bit and having a night in, having a game night, watching movies, like, you know, like, it doesn't, if you say you do everything outside of the comfort zone, then the word comfort zone no longer has any meaning, or it takes on a new meaning. That's first of all. And second of all, it gave me the vibes of, does she truly enjoy doing all of these wild things that she does? Or it's part of her doing it because she wants to be the most interesting person in the room, because she likes was she always a person that loved coming back from summer break with the best stories from what she did over the summer? You know, I think that she genuinely, it seems like she does enjoy these things. It does seem like she does enjoy the lifestyle that she lives, but I'm just curious about what the full motivation of everything that she does is. Another person that kind of stuck out was Genevieve. I'm just including her because she seemed to stick out to Clayton. She didn't really make an impact on me. I thought their conversation was frankly quite boring. They just talked about how their parents have been married for 30 plus years. Whatever. But, you know, the producers felt like the conversation was relevant enough to give it that, like, 3 minutes of screen time. Clayton seemed to really enjoy it. And I'm sure we'll see more of her. The last person that stuck out to me was Rachel. She got a lot of screen time because she got a promo clip. She got like 2 to 3 minutes of her intro from the limo. And then she got a little chit chat with Clayton. She's, you know, she's in her flight school. She's a flight instructor. She brought her mom, question mark. Their relationship was never defined. They just kind of skated right over that. Like, Clayton was like, who is this? And she was like, my wing woman. That's, you know, that's not clear. That's not clear enough. Whatever. And so, you know, we've been seeing a lot of Miss Rachel from last night. A few notes that I had about her, just in their conversation. First of all, her body language, I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but her body language was kind of weird. Like, she seemed like one of those girls who, like, you meet a cute guy at the bar and you're really trying to show him with your body language that you're really into him. So, like, everything he says, you're just like, like, you just laugh and you're, like, all over the place. You're, like, you know, trying to get next to him and, like, you know, you're just running around. And I noticed at one point she was all the way leaning back on the couch in laughter. I was like, girl, this man is not funny. Like, he's not said a single thing. I can guarantee you he's not said anything funny enough to make you keel over in laughter. So she was just doing a lot with that. She was kind of like moving her hair, and like it was a lot going on. And then the second thing I noticed, she does seem like a genuine person. She seems like she has a lot of depth to her. I think it's cool that she's kind of like a woman in the field of aviation. You don't see that a lot. So, you know, I'm interested to get to know more about her. But I did not feel as though she did a good job of expressing that or leading the conversation to make herself present all those interesting things about her in an interesting way. Just because it felt very repetitive. Like, yeah, they started off talking about the flight school, like, okay, cool. But then it seemed like that was the only thing they were stuck on. And it felt like they would joke about it, kind of get away from it a little bit, and then come right back to it. Like, it just felt like they were talking in circles and saying the same things. Like, Clayton even literally said the same thing twice. Like, she was like, oh, you know, like, I can teach you how to fly. And he's like, I don't trust myself in a cockpit. And it was like, ha, like, whatever. And then they're talking about, like, skydiving out of a plane or bungee jumping or whatever. And Clayton's like, oh, but don't trust me in the cockpit. It's like, okay. You know, like, it was just like, all right, okay. All right, let's move on. Let's have this conversation progress. But it didn't. So those were my thoughts. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you right back here next week for another episode of Breauana's Bachelor Breakdown.